Lemon verbena is a great plant for the garden. But the problem is, if you're in zone 7 or colder areas of the country, it is not going to make it through a winter. If you're in zone 9 through 11, you probably can grow that year round. But unfortunately, if you're in these colder areas like we are here in Tennessee, it's just not going to make it. But what can you do to save that lemon verbena over the winter? And that's what we're going to talk about here today. I've got 2 different ways that you can save your lemon verbena. That way you can enjoy it again next spring. I'm Dave with Growing the Home Garden. Let's go ahead and take a look at those. The first way to save your verbena is simply to dig it up out of the garden and pot it up into a container. And that's what I started to do here. Now my intent was to keep this in a cool garage over the winter so it wasn't going to be putting on a lot of growth. But our winter weather didn't happen like it normally does here, and it actually started to re-sprout from everything while it was still in the garage. So instead I'm going to actually bring this indoors, but I can show you at least an example of what I would do. So what I did is I cut it all the way back to about 12 to 14 inches tall or so. This was a really large plant, and the root system fills this 3-gallon pot very easily. And all I did is I cut back all this extra growth. When I dug it, it was still alive. I still had lots of branches and everything. The branches died back pretty quickly, and so then I just trimmed back all those little branches just like this and tossed them out. The idea is that you keep them in a cool garage without any kind of additional heat sources. You give them minimal water, and then they go into dormancy. And then over the winter time, as they're dormant, they will be fine until you're ready to start bringing them back outdoors in the spring. So what I am going to do is I'm going to bring this entire pot indoors and let it continue to grow, and it gives me lots of foliage here that I can actually harvest from over the winter time. Now it may lose its leaves in the winter time because, you know, our light sources are not the same. You can keep it under grow lights if you want to sustain its growth, but you don't have to do that. If the leaves drop, that's fine. Let it be dormant, and then in the spring just acclimate it outside once all danger of frost has happened, so you can put it back outdoors again and then let it grow in its original spot. So as you might suspect, if you follow this channel at all, is that my other method would be to take some cuttings from it. And you can take those cuttings from the other plant that you were just going to, cut back anyway, and take those pieces and then root them. And it's very easy to do. You just use your rooting medium. In this case, I used just a core mixture. And you just stick the cuttings in here, and they will eventually root if you keep them moist so that they don't dry out. Nothing really complicated to it. You can use rooting hormone if you like to. You don't have to. It will root on its own. I did try some cuttings in water, and they were not successful. That's not to say that it won't work, but I always seem to have a lot more success when I try in an actual soil type medium rather than just in water. So let me show you what I've got here so you can see. The dark foliage, it was the original foliage that I took from the cuttings, and of course this lighter green stuff is the new. And I'm just going to kind of squeeze this up a little bit, and look at that. So pretty good roots there on these, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to pot them all into this container, and then in the spring I can go through and separate them all out, just like I'm dividing a plant, and they can all be their own separate little plants. And then along the way, if I feel like it, I can go ahead and take more cuttings and just really make a really good stand of lemon verbena. You probably don't need that much of it, but if you were thinking of doing a sales business with selling plants, this might be a great way to do that. All right, so here we can see kind of what those individual root systems look like. Really good shape. We rooted 5 for 5 of these, and they all look really good. So I'm just going to go ahead and put them into this pot here, space them out kind of around the edges since I'm kind of cramming them all in here. And I'm just doing this for space reasons. The ideal situation would be to have them all in their own individual pots, but this will be fine for overwinter. And then excuse me, we can get them outdoors in the spring, growing nice and strong in their own locations. So now they're ready to be watered and then brought indoors. So these Verbena cuttings were about 5 to 6 inch long cuttings, and they did a really good job at rooting, but I think you could go down to say a 3 to 4 inch size cutting just fine. I don't think that would be a problem at all. This is the same technique that I use when I'm propagating peppers to overwinter. I really like taking them from cuttings because then I can really multiply what I've got. You can dig them up and bring them indoors and treat them exactly like the potted Verbena, where you cut them way back and let them go dormant. The other thing that I have done with the peppers and other plants is to just bring them indoors and let them continue to grow. I have had jalapeno peppers, which I love eating jalapeno peppers, through the winter many years. And in fact, right now I've got one plant indoors that's got a bunch of peppers still on it from the garden that may continue to produce if I provide it the right amount of light and the right growing conditions in the house. So I hope this video was interesting. If it was, hit the like button, subscribe, and we'll catch you next time here on Growing the Home Garden. Thanks for watching.